Is Damien, have we started as yet? So let me know. Damien, is Damien on the line to get us sorted?
It's 3 o'clock.
Okay. Well, on the assumption that we are now streaming, welcome to this ordinary meeting of the Wellington Shire Council for the 2nd of June 2020. And we might start with the roll call, working from my right. Councillor Stevens.
Yes, present. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Ripper.
Present, Mayor.
Councillor McCubbin.
Yep, I'm here.
Councillor Bye.
Yes, I'm here.
Councillor Rossetti.
I am here, Mayor.
Councillor Ma.
Yes, I'm here.
Councillor Hole.
Yes, I'm here.
Councillor Crosley.
Yes, present.
And obviously I'm here as well. I almost got that in the right order, but not quite. Can we start the meeting by, in fact, making some notes in regard to the COVID-19 situation as we are meeting virtually. So as the COVID-19 social distancing requirements remain in place, the Minister for Local Government has issued the Minister's Good Practice Guidelines MGPG-1 virtual meetings pursuant to Section 87 of the Local Government Act 2020. These guidelines ensure that local government decisions can continue in line with the COVID-19 requirements, and further details can be found on the local government website. These guidelines take effect on the 1st of May 2020 and will remain in place through to the 1st of November 2020. And I think that answers a question we talked about earlier. While members of the public can no longer attend meetings in person, we've provided options for you to interact with us virtually via our council meetings page on the Wellington Shire Council website. You are able to interact with council in two ways. Emailing through a specific question or comments relating to a particular council agenda item no later than 1 o'clock today, and there's no point in telling you that because we're past that time, or for general communication via the council via the webcasting chat room early in the meeting to ensure that your submissions can be dealt with at the end of the meeting. While we face a new way of gathering, we thank you for your continued support. Look forward to a new way of keeping in touch with all of the Wellington Shire. Two other things: could we ensure that we've got our mobile phones turned off like we would in a real meeting, and while we're meeting virtually, there is no need to stand up for the acknowledgement and prayer. So, starting with the acknowledgement, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Gunai people, and pay respects to their elders, past and present. Almighty God, we ask your blessings upon the Wellington Shire Council, its councillors, officers, staff and their families. We pray for your guidance in our decisions so that the true good of the Wellington Shire Council may result to the benefit of all residents and community groups. Amen. There's no apologies, CEO?
None, Mayor.
Moving on to declarations of conflicts of interest. Councillor Hole, I believe you have one.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. In item A7.1, I have a direct conflict of interest. I represent Gippsland on the board of the MAV, and this notice of motion, if passed, requests the President of the MAV to take some action, and I don't have that authority sitting here.
Thanks, Councillor Hole. Moving on to item A4, confirmation of the minutes of the previous council meeting, which are on page 7 of the agenda. Move for that motion, Councillor Bye.
Yep, I move the council adopt the minutes and resolutions of the ordinary council meeting of the 19th of May 2020.
Seconder.
And I'm happy to second that, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Ma. Is that opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Move on. Speak to that, Councillor Bye.
No.
There's no business arising from previous meetings, CEO?
None, Mayor.
No late items?
None, Mayor.
Thank you. Moving on to item A7, Part 1, information linkages and capacity building grants. Councillor Ma.
Yes, I'd like to move that the Mayor write, and I have some changes to the writing here, that the Mayor writes to the Federal Minister for the National Disability Insurance Scheme and Minister for Government Services, the Honourable Stuart Robert MP, Minister for Housing, Disability and Ageing, the Honourable Luke Donnellan, and to Councillor Coral Ross, President, Municipal Association of Victoria, requesting they make representations to the National Disability Insurance Agency on behalf of the Wellington Shire. That the Mayor express Council's concern at results of the recent funding round of the National Disability Insurance Agency, specifically those under the Information Linkages and Capacity Building Program, Economic and Community Participation Stream 2019 to 2020 round. That the Mayor asked that the Minister and the MAV President seek confirmation of the ability of local government organisations to access funding under future rounds, given Council's understanding that no local government applications were successful in the 2019-2020 round. That the Mayor also seeks clarification from the Minister regarding any Victorian Government funding to support local government in the provision of access and inclusion programs and support, previously supported through the Building Inclusive Communities for Rural Access program. That the local, state and federal members of Parliament, Darren Chester, Danny O'Brien, Tim Bull, Harriet Shing and Jane Garrett receive a copy of this correspondence. Thank you.
Second of that motion.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to second that. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Is that motion opposed?
Mr Mayor, this is the item which I declared a conflict of interest.
And you should have left the meeting then, Councillor Hole.
Well, there's no vote been taken and no discussion, so I'm leaving now.
Thanks, Councillor Hole. I should have picked that up. My apologies for that administrative oversight on my part. Wait for Councillor Hole to have left the screen, which he has done. So was that motion opposed? We've got to that point. Yeah, the motion's not opposed. The motion is carried. Councillor Marr.
Thank you, Mayor. For many years pre-NDIS, Wellington Shire received program funding from the Victorian Government under the Building Inclusive Communities for Rural Access initiatives. However, the federal government introduced a new program, Information Linkages and Capacity Building, otherwise known as ILC, administered by the NDIA. To date, there's been confusion regarding eligibility and the number and type of applications that are allowed to be submitted by any one organisation. The NDIA have advised that only one application is allowed, despite advice to the contrary from the MAV and Disability Services Consulting. It is understood that the Wellington Shire are not the only local government body to have encountered this situation. So it was disappointing and yet somewhat surprising to discover that no local government organisation was successful in the recent ILC program of the Economic and Community Partnership Funding Stream for 2019-2020. Whilst it's acknowledged that the preparation of applications are time-consuming, we're also mindful of the time taken by partner organisations and stakeholders who are engaged with Wellington Shire in putting these applications together. But more importantly, and above all else, are those in the community who would most benefit from these programs and funds. They're missing out, and we need to do all we can to fix this situation into the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Marr. And CEO, perhaps if you could just notify Councillor Hole to return to the meeting for us.
Yes, I'll try and get back in, Mayor.
We'll just give him a moment. We'll cover off item while he returns item A81, outstanding petitions. The petition in regard to vegetation management is to lay on the table, and we'll consider that at a subsequent meeting. Is that correct?
Right.
We have no invited addresses, presentations or acknowledgements. No questions on notice.
Still waiting for Councillor Hole, Mayor.
Okay, I probably shouldn't have whizzed through those, but given there was nothing there to worry about, we'll wait for a moment longer.
Just try and call him back, Mayor, because I've actually under the requirement of local government, the regulations, I actually removed Councillor Hull from the meeting, so just need to make sure I can get him back now.
Well, we won't be breaking any records tonight.
Just try to call him back in through the Skype, Mayor.
Thank you. I've let Councillor Hull know by phone that he can come back in. He said it'd just be a moment.
Oh, there is.
Welcome back. So I should repeat that now. In regard to item A8.1, outstanding petitions in regard to the vegetation management matter, that in fact lie on the table, and we'll consider that at a subsequent meeting. There's no invited addresses, presentations or acknowledgements that I'm aware of. No questions on notice, CEO?
He's gone silent. Sorry, none, Mayor. I was on mute. None, Mayor.
Thank you. No delegates reports.
None, Mayor.
Moving on to item then C1.1, the CEO's appointment to the Board of Destination Gippsland Limited.
Yes, thank
Councillor
you.
Stevens.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to move item C 1.1, which was that Council note and endorse the amended constitution of Destination Gippsland Limited at Appendix 1 and 2, appoint David Morecambe, Chief Executive Officer, as a Director on the Destination Gippsland Limited Board in accordance with their constitution.
Seconded for that, Councillor Crosley, I believe.
Yes, I'm happy to second that, but I thought there was going to be a third point regarding that this was going to be reviewed after a year. Was that correct?
There was some, there was some discussion about that. I'm happy to amend my motion with the leave of the council, Mr. Mayor, to point 3, that the appointment of the CEO be reviewed at the end of 12 months.
You happy with that, Councillor Crosley, as a seconder?
Yes, I'll second that motion.
Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Stevens?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I mean, the council knows, maybe other general public don't, that of course the Destination Gippsland Corporation is financially supported by all the members of the Gippsland Local Government Network, all 6 councils. This proposal is a change to the constitution of the Destination Gippsland Board, because up until this point of time there has been one council observer on the board, and I think that's been the CEO of the Bass Council. And now this proposal is to change the constitution of the Destination Gippsland Board and to appoint all the 6 members of the Gippsland Local Government Network and have their CEOs sit on the board. So that obviously that is designed to strengthen the accountability and the skills base of the Destination Gippsland Board. And as we amended in the motion, we will observe this and review it at the end of 12 months. And I think that the Destination Gippsland Corporation has been working very hard to try and promote tourism during these difficult times, with firstly the bushfires and then this COVID-19 pandemic, and they have got a plan to try and work their way out of it. They've tried to be very supportive of tourism businesses, which are mostly small businesses in Gippsland, and I wish them all the best, and I'm sure we will be well represented on the board by the Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. I'd like to support that situation. I think it heightens the accountability and the focus for all of the Gippsland councils, and I think that this is a good move and worth reviewing in 12 months, but I think it actually strengthens our position by having a seat at the table, and I think that's a welcome outcome. We'll move on to item C 2.1, Assembly of Councillors. Councillor Vai.
Thanks, Mayor. I move the council note and receive the attached Assembly of Councillor records for the period 14th of May 2020 to the 27th of May 2020.
Seconded by Councillor Hole, I believe.
Yes, I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hole. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Vai?
Nothing there.
Thank you. Moving on to item C 3.1, Monthly Planning Decisions March 2020. Councillor Marr?
I move that Council note the report on recent planning permit trends and planning application determinations between the 1st of March and 31st of March 2020.
So that's Councillor Ripper to second that motion, is that correct?
Yes, I'll second that motion, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ripper. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Marr?
Thank you. Just a short note that 37 decisions have been made over this period of March, under which we're all very aware of COVID conditions. And I just want to send a well done to the team, as planning has been an important role with things continuing on within this lockdown period. So I think our planning team have been doing quite an extraordinary job under the circumstances.
Thanks, Councillor Marr. Well said. Moving on to item C 3.2, Amendment C 109, Planning and Economic Growth Zone / Planning Policy Framework Implementation. I think I'm back in your hands, Councillor Marr.
You certainly are. Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council, pursuant to Section 8A of the Planning and Environment Act 1987, request the Minister for Planning to authorise Council as the planning authority to prepare Amendment C 109 to the Wellington Planning Scheme as outlined in the attached Planning Scheme Amendment documentation.
Councillor Rossetti, I understand you're seconding that?
I'm happy to second that, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Rossetti. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Marr?
Thank you. Planning in the Economic Growth Zone, known as PEGS, was established in 2016 by the state government in response to the closure of the Hazelwood mine. It included 3 councils, Wellington Shire, Latrobe and Ball Ball. Running concurrently with this has also been the state government's Victoria-wide Start Planning program. Recommendations of both the PEGS initiatives and changes from Smart Planning culminate in this amendment. The aim of the Smart Planning Rules and Policy program is to reform Victoria's planning system, changing the VPP, making planning schemes more efficient, transparent and accessible, thereby allowing better alignment of local planning policy with state and regional policy. The aim of this amendment is to therefore provide a clear set of guidelines, delivering a greater level of certainty to the community and stakeholders alike. This results in a far more efficient and transparent planning scheme with less triggers requiring planning permits. And I know that this is a very positive outcome for our local communities. On the basis that authorisation to proceed is received by the Minister, notice of the amendment will appear in the Victorian Government Gazette as well as local newspapers. There will also be a page on the Council website which will also allow for online submissions. However, due to current COVID situations, public notification will not occur until a later time. And considerations will also need to be given to Council's other strategic planning priorities. And as many of you will have looked at and read the attached documentation of this amendment, it is certainly a large body of work. And I would just like to say thank you to Barry Hersey and his team for what has been a very long process, and well done to all. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Marr. we might move on to item C3.3, 2019 Planning Customer Satisfaction Survey Results. Councillor McCubbin?
Yes, indeed, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move that Council notes the result of the 2019 statutory planning applicant and objector survey as attached.
Thanks, Councillor
Crossley.
Seconded by Councillor Crossley. Thank you. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion's carried. Councillor McCubbin.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for allowing me to speak about this. It may surprise people and perhaps a bit unusual that our policy in regard to planning is not to make it as easy as possible. Planning is by its very nature a dynamic process whereby the applicant puts in a series of requests and then we check that against the current planning policy. We ensure that people who live nearby can object to that, which is absolutely their right. And it is a dynamic process between the applicant and the objector to arrive at a good solution. We want people to live and work and play in the Wellington Shire, but we want that development to be appropriate and proper. So to create and maintain our wonderful lifestyle, we have a planning department which needs to, if you like, balance the demands of an applicant with the absolute requirements of objectors to live in an area which is not spoilt. So it's surprising, if you like, to get such good results when the process is by its very nature a dynamic one. You would expect that objectors and applicants, when you put them all together, are always going to feel as if things aren't exactly right. So to see this set of results, a beautiful set of figures, if I might say, it fills me with some joy, because I think the councillors around the table think very seriously about planning. It is something that we talk about quite a bit, and I must admit we argue about within our group. It is, whilst we don't want it to be as easy as possible, there are some things we do ask the planning department to do. We ask them to absolutely follow the planning rules, which are usually given to us by state government. So we absolutely require them to allow applications that follow those planning rules completely. We want them to be open and transparent to the public, so people have an absolute right to object if they wish, and that those objections be made known. We want the process to be fair, that both sides of the application are listened to equitably and a result is obtained. We want the results to occur timely, so it's not dragged through months and months of activity, but in fact that it's done in a timely manner. And most importantly, that people are treated politely and with respect. Now, I'm very pleased to see the set of results that have come in under this survey. It's something we do regularly to check that this important feature of the Shire is looked after. And can I congratulate our planning staff who balance this very difficult challenge. To look at the results, in terms of the applicants, they've rated the planning department excellent. It's gone from 42% in 2014, 42% to 71% in last year, 2019, 42% to 71%. So you've increased your excellent rating from 42 to 71. And so the applicants seem like they're happy through the process. If you look at the objectors, it's gone from 9% excellent rating, 9% in 2014 to 71% in 2019. So again, it's gone from 9 to 71, and there's very few departments that can claim that sort of improvement over a 5-year period. And I think they've done that by, and I can say this, the planning department is uniformly polite and respectful. They deal with the issues in a timely manner. They try as much as possible to create a mediated process whereby everybody gets a chance to speak. And might I say that we as councillors are extremely proud of the way that they operate. And the clear message that we can send to people is this is a wonderful place to come, to put in your application. We'll deal with it fairly, and we'll continue to make Wellington a great place to live, work and raise a family. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor McCubbin. I think the last 3 reports just continue to support the competency and the professionalism and the attitude and the desire of the people in this area to make sure that they in fact deliver for us and give us confidence about how well they're going about what they do for the betterment of Wellington. And well said, Councillor McCubbin, appreciate it. Moving on to item C4.1, Place Names Committee minutes. Councillor Rossetti.
Thank you, Mayor. And I note, of course, that some may have an old agenda that has that listed as C3.3 incorrectly. C4.1, as you've mentioned, is correct. I move that one, council receive and note the minutes of the Place Names Committee meeting held on 12th May 2020, and two, the name Davidson Road be approved for stage 2 of the subdivision at 7375 Hobson Street, Stratford, P46/2019.
Councillor Marr.
I'm happy to support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Marr. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion's carried. Councillor Rossetti.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to say that despite COVID-19, social distancing and the lack of a chair for that meeting, the hard work of the Place Names Committee continues.
Thanks, Councillor Rossetti. I think we have, there's no report from General Manager, Community and Culture. No urgent business, CEO?
None, sorry, Mayor, just unmuting. None, Mayor, and nothing in the chat room either.
Oh, thank you very much. There's no need to move, I believe, into closed session unless anyone has a desire for to require leave or any other matters. So if that's the case, I'm happy at 3:25 p.m. to declare this meeting closed, and thank you.